Oh, okay, my microphone has been muted. Hey, hey. So, my microphone was muted. I just realized that it has been muted all along. This is painful. Okay, so maybe I'll go back and I will say what I have done. Like I said, um, I have finished the formatter string, this one here, and I tested it. So now in our database engine specification, instead of passing the string itself, because if I pass the string, then I'm going to be passing something that will make the client knows that they are using SQL, yeah. So I don't want that. So I'm going to give it to the abstract condition format that will format this thing and return a string. And whether if this thing is no SQL, the condition might be formatted differently. If it is an SQL, the condition also will be formatted differently. So with that said, now I'm going to go ahead to refactor all of these methods. So instead of having, for example, array of parameters, I'm going to be using the actual parameters. So yeah, condition, if you want to query, instead of passing the condition, instead of passing the condition string, you are going to pass this condition format, and then array condition values. I'm thinking, what can I do to the last part? What can I do to the last part? Maybe we can pass options. No, yeah, just options. It can be used by the underlying engine in any way it wants. But by default, these options should not affect the working of the engine. It should not affect the working of the engine. So if we want to change from SQL engine to no SQL engine, then we should go ahead to process the options that were sent, or just leave it like that. But just make sure we return the query result. Yeah. So with this, we can go ahead and finish it. So we're gonna pass an array of options. That's it for the query. So let me just do that. So container name, table, for example, then the columns to select. There's this extension let me just look for it. It's called spell checker. Let me install that so that because I usually make which one is this? Okay, good. Let me install that. Condition format, the condition for the query, and array of condition values if prepared statement is used. And lastly, we can say options for the underlying engine if any. Yeah. So what do we return? We're going to return an array. That's all. We're definitely going to return an array. Or should we return an array? Returning an array returning an array. Should we return an array? Okay, now this might be unfortunate. If we return an array, we will have to convert the result to an array. And sometimes when you select something from the database, it is a lot of you have probably maybe 50, 60, 70, 80 rows. But however, it's up to the person to make sure that you don't select everything from the database, because no one wants to select 1,000 rows. If you know very well that you are limited on RAM, you don't want to go ahead and select everything from the database, else you're going to get your RAM full. So it is the person's or the developer's your work to ensure that you don't select everything from the database. So probably you can put a limit, and that's why I'm putting this array of options. So the specific underlying engine, since we have Mysql Engine here, we are just going to implement what these options would mean and maybe add some little comments. And with that, I can go on to work on the insert. So we are refactoring this thing we did earlier. So when we want to insert, we are inserting into a container. What are we inserting? We are inserting into an array of columns here, array of columns, and some values. So we're just gonna say array. This one is just simple. Yep, this one is simple. Let's do the commenting. So this is the container name. Yeah, the container name probably table, for example, and then the columns in which or columns to insert. Yeah, like I'm saying, this is just a specification for an engine. So whatsoever implements this specification will implement this function based on how it is structured. For example, a NoSQL engine won't have columns, but however, it will go ahead to deal with the parameters based on how it is organized. But let's say we have a user class. If the user class will use this the database, maybe client, all it should know is that there is something called container, and it needs to put some column and some values. The specific engine that is underlying this specification will go ahead to implement this thing specifically based on how it is structured. So with that, we're good. Values to insert, and we're going to return. Okay, now this is where the thing counts. Some databases, their IDs are not it's not integer. Yeah, it's not integer. Some IDs are string. Let's say the one from the NoSQL. Those unique IDs, most of the time they are strings. So if I say return an integer, that means we are forcing the engine the underlying engine to return an integer, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say we return a mix there, so that the underlying engine can decide what it returns. But should we just return? Should we just return? It says string or integer. Now I'm thinking the goal is anything that I put here specific will give the client a sense of what is being used. When I say the client, I mean the classes that will use this engine. You know, if you are returning integer for the ID always, then we can say that I'm using probably an SQL database, because for NoSQL ones, the IDs are not, they are not string, they are not integer. Okay, so yeah, we'll just say mixed. The different classes which receive mixed. They don't have to know what. If I say return int, it's going to be, for let's say, making it more specific. So let me leave it like that. Oh no, Control Z. So this one, when we want to delete something from the database, we want to say the container name from which we want to delete it. What do we want to do? We want to delete something from a container, right? If you want to delete something, you can't delete individual columns, you delete a whole row. Okay, so since we delete whole row, I'm thinking now, if you are deleting from NoSQL, you can delete a single column from NoSQL, but from MySQL you have to delete the whole row. So what I will do to make it like the engine that is underlined will do what it's supposed to do, I'm going to say array column still. So probably if you are deleting something, you want to pass an empty column, it's up to you. It is totally up to you. Good. So array columns, yeah. And the same thing, abstract condition format. Condition format, it's going to be the condition on which you want us to delete, and the array of condition values. Yep, like that. So with that said, I can go ahead to go to the next one. So okay, here I need to comment. I need to comment here. So these places are comment intensive because it's kind of a specification. I'm going to use this thing throughout the whole code, and probably when the code gets a lot, I want to know what I even did here. So it's better I just comment and take the pain of commenting. Table, for example, and the columns empty, or maybe I can say columns to delete, yeah. Then I know there is this note thing in so I can say note you delete the now I know you are thinking, why am I commenting this much? So I've made a system before, and right now I am not the guy fully working on that system or fully maintaining it. I'm doing whole like another role, and it gives people hard time to understand what I wrote. Even me, sometimes I have to go and look back and see the algorithm that was running here before I can explain it. So these days, I've realized that you won't be the developer all the time. So it's better to comment, and I want to make this condition, if I can get it to become really, really good, I want to make it a package so that other people can use it in their code, instead of, if they want to like achieve this extreme abstraction of the database, because that's what I'm trying to do here all along, just trying to abstract the database away from the underlying client. We have not even gone into the real code of ZAS Smart itself. It's just me creating things that will change, and it's just trying to work for scalability purposes here. Scalability is something key, and yeah, that's why I'm doing all of this whole specification engine client thing. So note you delete the whole row for SQL databases, and condition format, the condition for the deletion, yeah, values, if any, mainly when you are using prepared statements. And with this set, what are we returning? We're returning true or false. It's just boolean. Yep, just returning a boolean. Then the last thing is update. So update should be similar to insert. It's just that there is one problem with update. For update, we are updating specific column. So I'm going to say string container. What is the container we are dealing with? The array of columns. Then onward condition, abstract condition format, condition, and then what are the condition values? It's an array of condition values. Yep, just like that. And the thing about this approach is you take longer writing code because you split them up into pieces, but in the future your application is scalable, and when it comes to security, it's very easy to ensure security around the place. So that's just something I've learned over time. Before then, we were writing procedural programs around here and doing some checks, and now we want to write better code for more scalable applications. So we're going to call this the container name as usual. We just say table. I know you have seen this for this comment like 1,000 times. Columns to update. Oh, I didn't put something here. The columns to update the columns value. Yeah. New col value. Yeah. Yep. So painfully I have to re-comment. Hey. Commenting is just painful when you are doing it initially. And this is the container name. So we're gonna say table, for example, and this one here is columns to update. New columns value is order sensitive. The column on index 1 is the corresponds to the value for index 1. We could make it an associative array. So column implies new value, column implies new value. Yeah, that could be cool, but trust me, the client that's going to implement that will have to make that associative array. So it's better you just put the columns that you want to update and the new values of those columns instead of building an associative array of column mapped to a new value. So let me just leave it like that. Condition for update. Condition value with n, mainly for prepared statements. And what do we return? We'll just return true or false. Now, I think it's gonna be unfair if I just go ahead to do this thing and not test this condition value for you. Probably, I'm using condition value and I'm thinking, what is this whole condition formatting? Like I said, I actually wanted to abstract away the condition string itself so that I gave that to a class to format it for me. So I'm going to say PHP ZAS make. Let me see my commands. I've forgotten the commands that I put on this thing. Come on. PHP ZAS. Oh, I need to go back. CD in CD go back, like that. Good. So we're going to say PHP ZAS. Let's see what we get. Yeah, PHP ZAS make actor, the name of the actor in full or background. So PHP ZAS make actor. The name of the actor will be test condition, maybe, and it's gonna be in the foreground. No, in the background. It's not in the foreground, and it's gonna be in the parent directory called. Should put in the parent directory? Nah, let me just leave it like that. No parent directory. Good. So yeah, now if I go in here, I just need to make something, okay, it's in here. Good. So test condition, perfect. So I just need to require our setup so that we have auto load for setup.php. And let me just do this whole condition thing, and then you see what I'm talking about. So let me say, that's gonna be a condition format. CF is equal to new SQL format. Now, I don't like this thing being on top of this one. Let me just put this one here. And I don't know why when this thing is bringing in some dependencies, it doesn't. It's okay. Now see what I'm looking down. There's this thing processes in our post. Is it like a postfix? Yeah, postfix. I mean, is it postfix or post? Yeah, it's postfix. I don't know. I forgot it. There is prefix. There's postfix. So if, for example, you want to say maybe, let's say we want to write this query. This is a string we want, yeah. So we want to select something from the database where, for example, username, yeah, username is equal to Levi. Username is equal to Levi, and password is equal to so we should say password. Let me just do password is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. With this, now here's how we are going to do it. Firstly, we will handle all of the unary operations. Now, the unary operations, like, they are not really the unary operations. Everything is kind of binary, but the ones that are called unary are those ones that really, it's like a left hand side gets assigned to a right hand side. Yeah, it's not kind of like for the end, it's taking condition on the left, condition on the right. But for this one, there's no condition. It's just saying username equal Levi. It's just equal to like that. So with this, I can say CF, yeah, CF. Now the first thing we want to do, the first equal to. So we say equal. Now the left hand side is username, and the right hand side. Now we need to put this quote around here, Levi. And the next one, the next equal to. So you have to do you have to do these two equal tos before you do the end, because if we were processing this thing, we will actually deal with all of the equal sign before we come to the next operator, which is the end. So when you look at the operator precedence, yeah. So you do the next equal to. So the next side is password, yeah. Password is equal to 1 2 3 4 5. Now I'm supposed to put that in. Now if you are using a prepared statement, you don't have to put, you just have to put a question mark here. But let me just show you what this thing does. This condition formatter, it's going to return the condition of there, and then you do end. It's all. Now this thing should not be underlined red. The reason is the what's the name? What I'm using, the IntelliSense is unable to detect that this end is in the CF. So to not make it red, let me just remove it, and we're going to say CF, and then we do end. Yeah. And maybe you are thinking, why didn't we? Why doesn't it know that it's in the CF? You see, this CF inherits from the unary the unary condition formatter, and the no it this one inherits from the binary condition formatter, and the binary condition formatter is the one that has this AND operator, and then the binary condition formatter inherits from the unary condition formatter, which has the equal to and the not operator. So now when you execute this method, they return the parent. Yeah, so if you return the parent, now this one is gonna return a unary what's the name? Oh, now I see. Let me go back and fix something quickly. So instead of returning self, we're not going to return self. We're not going to return self. We're going to return data structure slash SQLCF slash SQLCF. That's what we're going to return. Let me see. Yep. So this one now will save us from returning self, yeah, because when we tell the IntelliSense, I'm not sure it's gonna work. Was that supposed to be /? It should be // like that. So if we tell the IntelliSense that this thing return an SQL, I think it will be able to fix this problem. So instead of saying return this, what was I even doing here? Okay, so we're gonna return ourselves. Yeah. Now I'm going to the unary. And we are not going to be returning self. We're going to be returning what's the name? Data structure, right? But then we're going to be returning unary CF, UNARY CF. And this one should work because a binary CF, yeah, a binary condition formatter, that's why I call it binary CF, is a unary CF. And if that's the case, it should not give me an error when I try to call some. But let me see. I don't know if it's gonna work. If it does work, we're good. If it doesn't work, and that's just another bad day. So we are going to put return self here because the IntelliSense uses this thing. It uses a binary CF, yeah. So the IntelliSense uses the return type we put here to know which type is being returned. Most often. So let me just give it the correct type instead of allowing it to look at self, and then it's going to say we are returning unary CF. Okay, so with that said, I can go back into the test. Yeah, we were on test condition. Yeah, now I don't know if it's gonna work. Let me see. If I do that, what do we get? It's still not there. Oh wait, it did work. But it didn't comment. It didn't allow the comment. So I'm going to cd into actors, background, and yep, we have test condition. So I'm going to say PHP test condition. Oh yeah, I didn't. So we have this thing here. I'm going to use the ZAS helper to just log it. Instead of printing it out to the console, this thing just prints something to the console, and I'm going to do the output of this formatter, yeah, so that you see what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is it. You can see username is equal to Levi and password is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So that's what this thing does. So we said this equal to this equal to this. We want to do an end, and you can chain it as much as you want. If I put some other condition here, you definitely see, you know, it will format based on that condition. Okay, maybe I'll do one. So we say username is equal to this, password is equal to that, and we want to say end, and our age, yeah, our age is or our birth date is should we say birthday? No, let's not say birthday. Let's say our salary. Our salary is between 120,000, yeah, 120,000 and 240,000. So how do we do this, right? So since I've said C equal this and this and this, and now you can do something. You could say you don't want to put CF in here. So maybe you want to pass a parameter. You can do that, but then it has to be an array. So it's an array of a new binary, a new SQLCF, that does the between. And what's the left hand side? The left hand side is our salary. And what's the right hand side? The right hand side is 120,000, and the right hand side is 240,000. Yep. Yeah, I like the way this spell check is working. Let's fix the problem. Unknown word. Wait. Quick fix. Salary. Oh yes, it's good. Now with this, come and see what we get. Let me clear this. If I run that, you see username is equal to leave and password is equal to that, and our salary is between 120 and 240. However, you don't have to pass something to this end operator if you don't want. We can just change it. Change. Let's change this thing. We could change it directly. So I could just put another arrow here, and we do that. Remove that, and yes, like that, we're good to go. You can see. So now we said and then we said between. So between is a unary operator. Between, now the end, we need another end to say that we are saying after we ended the first two, then we added a salary, and then we want to have a final end. So we do that, and then it gives us the same thing. Or probably you could say it's not between. Okay? It's not between. It's not between. You run it, you see salary not between that and that and that. And maybe we want to say in what is in what? Let me see. Then we want to say or our age, not our age, or our probably our ID num, yeah. Maybe our NID, our national ID, is in one of these, is in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So in, we can do what is in. We know it's our NID. Me, I like lowercase letters a lot because I don't have to write shift. And it's in what? You have to put an array here. 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Now with this is in, but then we want it to be or. So after you put this one, you have to put that this is an or. Yeah, it's an or operation. Now I don't know why we are not auto completing. At this place, you know what we had? It returned a unary CF, right? Oh, now I think probably this, let me see something. Let me just create a function. I'm going to say public function x return self, and let me try commenting this function and see what we get. Oh, it's gonna say return self. Okay, but if I remove this, it's gonna say return. Oh, now I see. We need to put this backslash here, backslash that. I now get. This is it, eh? This is how we found the bug. This is how we find the bug. So we are returning a backslash that, backslash that, returning this from the root namespace. Yeah, I think it wanted us to specify that we are taking this thing from the root namespace. Then for SQLCF, we are taking this from the root namespace, like that. But I'm not sure yet, eh? I'm not sure yet. So let's come back now and see. We come back to the same error. It's gonna be unary CF and undefined because we don't know. Like, okay, it's not like this thing is actually undefined. It's because the IntelliSense cannot be able to detect that we are on an inheritance chain, that this actual SQLCF has this end, because end is of type binary, and binary, unary is the parent of binary, and binary is the parent of SQL condition formatter. So wow, let me just show this one. This is not good. Okay, good. So you'll see our NID in. So there's something I did. I was putting parentheses around them so that they don't clash, or maybe the way you want it to be, it does not stay like that. Yeah. So I put parentheses around them to save the whole. But this is basically how the SQL condition string would be. This is something that you are going to, so let me just make it even more the way it's supposed to be if you are running a prepared statement. Yeah. So for prepared statement, these things should be question marks. So our salary is between question mark and question mark, but it's going to be a string actually. String question mark. Yeah. Then the underlying engine now will go ahead and say, okay, I know. And here we want an array of question mark, probably. The person implementing this thing can go ahead to find a better way to write all of these, stuff. And like that, if I run it, it's how it's going to be. You see? And this is the exact thing we need for a prepare statement. Now we can just go ahead and replace this question mark by passing the condition values. With that said, let me just put this, let me save us, from all of these errors, and just put this under condition CF. Okay. So I need to put this one on the CF again, so that we don't have all of these errors disturbing us. Okay, now after the end, but you can see that there's no error, right? There was no error at all after it's just that the method chaining is the one having the problem. So I don't know why the method chaining cannot resolve the chat class. We're gonna see what the IntelliSense will do about it, but just know that it works, and that's what this whole condition formatter thing is. Now we are not living on assumptions. We all know what we want to achieve. So with this specification, we have to go back now to the actual database engine itself. Okay, so this is the root database engine interface. I don't want that one. We have the specification. Now we need to work on our engine. The engine, we have the MySQL engine. MySQL engine extends abstract SQL engine. So we want to open abstract SQL engine and deal with it from here. Yeah. So let's fix all of these problems. Okay, so abstract SQL engine, we're sorry, but now you have to. What I'll do, you know what? I'm not going to write this thing from scratch. Yeah, I'm not going to do all of this. I'm just going to take this method out, this whole thing. I'm going to control X that, and I'm going to create another one. So PHP ZAS make abstract class in the engine namespace, and it's going to be called SQL engine, and it implements the engine database engine. Yeah, it implements this interface database engine. So with that, I'm just going to come on. Okay, I need to go back to the root again. That's why I need to put some method in here that will allow me to execute before I go into the actual background folder. Oh yeah, I need to do --f so that will override this one. Yep. Still. If we implement database engine interface, okay, now we didn't get those methods because ZAS was unable to go down the inheritance chain and find the method we are supposed to implement. Ah, man, this is not good. Anyway, I'm just gonna paste that thing back here. Just gonna paste it there, and this time around we know we are using PDO so that we don't have all of these errors. But we still have an error though, because wait. Okay, now you see, since this is an abstract class, we didn't go ahead to forcefully implement all of those methods. But then the concrete class will implement those methods. Now here we could put abstract functions that maybe other SQL engines should implement. But then we are not going to put those abstract functions. Oh, I'm liking this spell check. Yeah, I'm liking this spell check a lot. This doing me well. let me maybe comment on this SQL engine. The abstract class for every SQL engine. It uses PDO to connect to the underlying database. Yep. Okay, that's what we use. Nothing else, nothing more. With that said, we have the SQL engine that is abstract. Now I have to clear this thing. Let me go back to the real engine itself, the MySQL engine. Now this one is the one that implements the, we have do query, this and this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this do query and stuff like that, and I'm going to get rid of this do query, this blah blah blah, and implement the actual query, the actual functions themselves. So this is not going to be do query, it's going to be query. It's going to be query, and for the query methods, we have absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay. Now, do you know what I'm gonna do? I am going to do something. I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy the whole function here. Then, because I want to get everything, all of the methods to implement, I'm going to write a PHP. Now this using hack, ZAS make class. We are making class engine. It's gonna be called MySQL engine. Should we call it MySQL engine? Class engine MySQL. MySQL is of type engine. Let's just say MySQL engine, and this MySQL engine has a parent class which is abstract engine, abstract SQL engine. Yep. And then we implement interface database specification. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete that. It's in engine specification, and we're going to say it's called what? It's called DB specification. I don't know what I call it. Is database engine spec, and it's database engine spec. Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Wait. Okay. Hey, that's cool, huh? Isn't it? It is. I didn't do dash overwrite, so we didn't overwrite this. We only included and wait. Oh yeah, this was cool. This is cool. This is a cool way to get methods from for so that they appear in here, but now. Okay, I've learned to hack. I hack my own ZAS thing. Hey, I'm feeling so good because I've gotten some hack on some things. So now I'm going to just start doing some things. I'm going to we have to return an array. There's no returning false here. So we're going to start with that. Let's get rid of the query methods. And we implement that in query itself. So we're going to implement that here. Okay. We know this one should be, let me just say T and like that, just so that we have this thing in here. Yeah, just like that. Okay. With this query stuff, now we are about to make sense. We're about to make, you see, add ticks. By default, we will add tick around the table name. So since this is an SQL engine, if you want us to add ticks, we can maybe two options. Yeah, we can do like let me say something like this, and we're not gonna put all of these ones here. We're gonna remove these ones. they will get their comment from their parent. This option. So how do an option look like? So we're gonna have something like this. It's an option of string, yeah, string, and this string has a value, string and value. Yeah, let me see if I do that, we get an option of string value, or probably okay, it's a string, and then we put mixed here. Yep. Yeah, this one will take its name from its parent. This one will be a string mixed. So option string mixed, and then we say, what do we expect? So for example, you can say artix is equal to true, or probably like artix implies true. What else? So artix is true. Come on. Oh, this options thing should be optional. It should be optional. Yeah, it should be optional. Good. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna put some default things in here. I'm gonna say artix. Yeah, artix is true by default. And if we have other stuff, we're gonna put them here. If we have other options, yeah, we'll put them there. So we just need to pass the options now. So we'll say artix, yeah, artix is equal to, now instead of a set, we're just gonna say options, and then we do artix, but sometimes it won't be there. So if it is not there, put question mark. It's true by default. It's true by default. So good. Now we don't have any table, but we have container. So we'll say now thinking about it, should we put, okay, say if article is equivalent to true, blah 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 blah. I'm thinking we could do something. If it set artix and artix is true, and we'll do this else. Okay, by default it's supposed to be set. So if you pass an empty array here, that means you want artix to be false. Really, is that true? If you don't want us to add ticks, then you should explicitly say you don't want tick. Else we're gonna add ticks. Guys, that's it. If you like it, good. If you don't, you can overwrite the code. No, all of my code is open source. Then we say SQL select implode columns. Yep. So we do that, and then we say from where, from our container. You see, now this is the actual specific implementation of the query method that we're talking about. Because this is SQL, we already know we are going to be dealing with a select, blah blah blah. Now for this condition string, we know that the condition is an abstract condition format. So just have to say condition, right? And we do string output, like that. You see, where condition output. Now I've not implemented things for join, isn't that? We'll implement that. We'll implement that later on in the future. or maybe some other people will implement that. You know, people sometimes think, why can't you just pull pull something from the database, then you check for the ones that are equal, then you return those ones if you want to do an intersection instead of doing inner joins. Let me tell you something. The database, when I did database systems and I saw how these guys implemented their algorithms for the database management system, I was kind of really impressed. These guys are geniuses. Now, that database management system has an efficient way of finding intersections, and also probably you'll be running that database management system on another server. Remember, this server that we are currently having the logic on has a RAM. Yeah, you don't want to pull 1,000 rows from one table, pull another 1,000 rows from the other table, and start doing checks to see if they match on this other server. You are just taking space, like you are taking space for nothing, and that I think will make your application not really scalable, and also you use a lot of resources as compared to allowing the database server itself using the database management system to do the inner join for you and return the query that the and return the queries that not the queries, the rows that kind of intersect. So even though now I don't have the join here, but I'm going to work on that and see. I'm going to put it in the specification. So maybe for NoSQL, you have to implement it differently. For SQL, we already know what we'll do. But yeah, joins. The thing is, I don't know the set of parameters here as you give to the join query. You will say you want to query this particular thing and then you want to chain it with join. But for now, let's leave it like that and see if we can get this basic one to be implemented first for the application I'm working on, and then I can focus on that for bigger applications. For now, let me leave it like that. So good, we very good. So let's go back. So we have our condition output, and yep. We do this. Oh no way. I was trying to say shift. So we have our DB connection and we want to prepare our SQL. And then we're gonna execute passing the condition values as an array. And now there is another thing, which is fetch all and fetch first. Yeah. Now, fetch all is saying you want to fetch everything from, like, you want to get all of the stuff as an array. Then fetch first is saying you only want the first thing that matches. So by default, we only fetch the first thing. Yeah. And this is how the options expand. So we are going to say fetch all. Yeah, fetch all is false. You don't want to fetch all. Articks and fetch all is false. So if fetch all is false, we'll come here and say fetch all. Yeah? Fetch all is equal to option fetch all, and then we do question mark false. So if you don't pass fetch all, you must tell us explicitly that you want to fetch all. If you don't, it is your fault. Good. Or yep. Okay. So maybe something that could be even nice to have is to say our options is of type object. And then we can do an object stuff here. be good. It's gonna be good. I think this one is better. Fetch all. Exactly. Good. So with this, we can continue looking at our implementation. Condition output, and then we pass SQL, and then we say if fetch all. We know we don't have this fetch all, so we're just gonna remove that. So if fetch all, yeah, if fetch all, we're gonna say stem statement fetch all, else we only fetch the first row, and this is gonna be do we have to say return is equal to blah. No, before then we used to be doing all of this thing here. If the thing it doesn't, I'm gonna put result is equal to this and this and this. I'm gonna say return from here. You know, as we grow up, we get mature. We get mature in programming. Else, I don't have to put else here still. You know, if things didn't work out, we will return an empty array. However, sometimes you want to throw an exception. Yeah, maybe we can say else so we throw an exception. Should we throw an exception? Yeah, we should throw an exception. You know, let me just let me see if there is throw SQL exception. Let me see if there's an SQL. Yeah, my SQL exception. Let me see. And now I don't know about this MySQL exception thing, and also I don't even really know how to handle exceptions for now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to close this one and go to my browser and say throwing SQL exception in PHP. MySQL exception. It's a runtime exception. Yeah. Okay, let me see what PHP. I like documentations a lot. They really teaches you quickly. They teach you quickly, not even teaches you. Final class. MySQL exception extends this. Protected string SQL state is in this and this and this. Get SQL state. Trace as string, get trace, inherited methods, get message, get previous, get code, get file, get line. So let me see. It was not enough for me to enable exception throwing. I had to write this. PHP MySQL report error, or MySQL report straight. So let me see what they say up here. So test it with the error. It returns the SQL state error code. Use contributor notes. That was 6 years ago. MySQL reports was not enough for me to enable exception throwing. I had to write this. PHP MySQL report error, or MySQL report straight. Okay. Now I don't want to put that thing. This is supposed to be a file that has no side effect, yeah? So what I'll do, I will have a configuration file that will be included by maybe the setup, yeah, the setup of whosoever will be using this database stuff. So then the configuration will set up the system state before all of these things get to be executed. So for now, should I throw an error? I'm still thinking. Should I throw an error? Okay. Okay. I'm not going to throw an error. I won't throw an error for now. What I'll do, I'll just let it return an empty string, because an empty array. If anything runs and gets an empty array, we know if we want to process that array, there will be nothing inside. That means we have to be checking if the array is empty or not. But then also maybe you want to look for exceptions and then send an email that this and this happened. But with before, now this is just a simple system. So we'll just leave this one as that. And like the thing I do is I copy these codes and take them to my other projects. So when I take them there, that's when I improve them a lot. So with that said, this is it. We have implemented the query method for SQL. You see? Now, if this was no SQL, we just do the same thing but in a different way. So the client now doesn't have to know what is under the hood. All that it knows is when I make an insertion, it is going to work. If I make an update, it will also work. If I make a delete, it will also work. Right? So with that, let me come to insert. Yep. Insert. Good. So there's no container here. Do you put by default gonna put a tick after the container, include columns value, this the build count values, and there is really nothing much to do here. Statement, prepare that, new row ID is -1 by default, and if statements execute, new row ID. So we don't have to put new row ID here again. The thing is to get as fewer lines of code as possible. We're gonna return this one right here. Else we're gonna return -1. Right, that's simple. Good. So we can remove the do insert function. We have finished that one. Then we go to do delete. This is going to be the delete function. So I'm going to just Control X. We'll come here to the delete. Good. So there are some things we have to work on here. So if we are deleting, I'm going to put a stick around the table name. Delete from that container where you see in this case we don't use columns because for SQL it doesn't use columns. It just goes ahead to delete the row, and sometimes you want to delete based on inner joins, and you do that. But for now, let's go to work with what we have. Condition output, then we prepare our SQL. We set this current statement. We don't have current statement listing here. There's no this current statement. Or do we? No, we don't have current statement. Should we have current statement? So the reason I was saving current statement was so that I can be able to use statements between method code, maybe if there is any dependence on the state of the previous statement. That's why I was saving it. But now you can see I don't need that. So I am just going to keep it the way it is, like this. execute condition values, and we return true or false. Good. So we know this. Why this thing is not auto-completing? I don't know why. Connect, yeah, but this DB connection. Okay. You know what? I'm going back to the abstract SQL engine, which is SQL engine.a class, and let's see if we have, wow, our DB connection is not here. No wonder why. Protected, yeah, it's gonna be \b do. It's gonna be dollar DB. Should we call it DB connection or just call it connection? And we're gonna replace every DB connection with connection. So Control H, find for me DB connection, and I want you to replace that with connection. Or do we have to replace that with connection? Yeah, I like to use the CONN method. Okay, get connection. Let me just use connection so that things can work smoothly. We only have one DB connection. I'm gonna replace all of them, but then if we come to the actual MySQL engine, we have 5 of that. So we're gonna replace all of that with connection. Yep, we're good. Yeah, now it makes sense. So we know what we're dealing with. And finally, yeah, man, no, it's good that we I don't want to have return type here. I don't want to have return type. The return type will come from okay. The return type will come from the parent comment. This life. Okay, then we do finally update. Hey, so we're gonna do Control X and let's do the update method and Control V. Yeah, it's shouting. Now there is a little processing we have to do here. You see, we're saying columns, the new column value, blah blah blah, but actually actually there's no column string here anymore. There's actually just array of columns, so we have to process the array of columns. So since we know that we can build query, like we can build question mark, but this time around we don't want to build question mark, comma. Like if you look here, we actually said string repeat question mark this number of times and return that number of times. This is just for placeholders for the what's the name? Placeholders for, come on, the insert. Yeah, it's only the insert that uses that. Now update has to have its own, so that means we have to write some code here. So for every value in the column, we need to write a string. So we're gonna say column string. Yeah, no, let me do this processing before I connect. Most of the time I should connect when I'm about to prepare the statement instead of connecting before, just to make sure that, okay, sometimes there are two things. One, you could be like, I don't want to create a connection before I do all of this processing, or sometimes you'll be like, let me get a connection, I keep it so that when connection finishes I still have connection. People don't know that you can actually exhaust all of your connection to the SQL database. I think it takes around 32,000 connections, 32 something, yeah. So if you have a very big application that has millions of users, trust me, um, it's it's not going to be something to joke with. However, there is a problem. I need to close these connections when I'm done with them. I need to close the connections when I'm done with them. I will do that. I will do that. It's not a problem. It is not a problem. So, good. With this said, uh, let me first do the processing here. I'm going to say column string is equal to empty first. Then I'll do for each as call for each column as call, we firstly check if our column string is not empty. If not empty column string, then what do you want to do? If it's not empty column string, you want to append a comma. Yep, like that. Then we can go ahead to add the next thing. So then we're going to say our column string. Then we do dot equal. Now we know very well we want to say call, yeah, it's equal to question mark, like that. Because this one is saying set, we are setting something. So set this equal question mark, set like this setting here. I think you already know. So we do container set column string, and after all, we all know what goes into condition string. It's just dot condition. Let's get the output. Put your body on me. Oh, okay, I don't know how to sing that song, but yeah, that's what happens when everything is just working together nicely. So it's not values, it's gonna be new call values, new column values. Now you're thinking, why did we merge this? You see, this thing is prepared statement. This one's gonna have their own question mark. This one will have its own question mark. So you need to pass the values for all of them. So that's why I said combine values here. Then we execute combined values and return true, or we return false. And some people will be like, why do you have to put a bracket when you are returning true? Most of the thing I think like maybe there'll be a time I want to do something in here and I don't want to write the parentheses. Lazy. Okay, good. With that, let's do something quickly. We need to close the connections when we are done. And now you see exactly why I have to put this parenthesis here. We need to close this connection. We need to close the connection. So after we execute it, we need to close the connection. Okay, so what I'll do, let me go back to the abstract SQL engine, and the way we have connect, let's have public function disconnect. Yeah, yep. Let's just connect, and then we'll just say this connection equal to null. What are we doing here? We're returning nothing. It just closes the database connection. Okay. Oh, we'll come back to this one. Let's finish the MySQL engine. We have to close the connection. See, good. With that said, that means I need to do something like return val. Yeah, return val is equal to true. Return value is equal to true. And now at this point, I'm going to be using guards instead. If we didn't execute it, then the return value is equal to false. And now after all, we can just close our connection here. Disconnect, and then we're gonna return the return value. And we have to do this for all of them. Yeah, it's okay. It's painful though. I hate repeating things like, oh, I hate repeating things. Return val is equal to true. And then we're gonna say if we didn't execute the thing, we're gonna just set return val to false. And here we can disconnect. And gonna return val. Good. So there is no persistent connection here for now. Sorry. We are absolutely sorry. Now it all makes sense why we need return val. So return val is equal to -1 here. Return val is -1 default, and here we're gonna say return val is equal to question mark. If things didn't work, we just return val. Let's go to question mark. So we are closing our. Let's close db disconnect. Disconnect. Yeah, disconnecting right over there. Good. The same thing for the query. Our query, our return val is just an empty array. And yes, after serving us so well, return val became the return val from the query, and we are returning that. But at this time, and we are closing this. So why are we closing this thing here? Why is it? Why don't you think when we exit this particular function, the connection will be closed? It's because the connection is part of the class, man. If this thing connects here, that connection will stay open in that, as long as the object is available in your code, that thing will stay open. So maybe you have a single database engine at the top there, and you see the database engine is in this DB manager. So as long as the DB manager exists, it has a database engine, and the database engine has a connection that has connected. It's going to stay connected. So you have to ensure that we close that thing, so that we don't, use a lot of resources and get, to starve other threads that will want to use the database connection. Now with this, yeah, we're good, guys. We are absolutely good. Now, finally, we can go back to the database manager class. And guess what? We can do something really simple, that trick that I discovered before. We just have to say that this thing implements the specification without, look at this, watch this, PHP ZAS, right? We know that we implement the database engine client interface, which implements the database engine specification. So we just have to say PHP ZAS make class, yeah. It's an engine client, and if you have not been following me, an engine client is a middleman between the engine and the actual users. So our database manager will be the one between the engine and the user. So if the user wants to insert something into log in, like into the user table, it tells the DB manager to query, yeah, and the DB manager uses the underlying engine to query. So the underlying engine can be SQL engine, it can be no SQL engine, yeah. So that means if we change our application database engine, we only need to go in our general configuration file, and because we are going to create the engine factory. So we go into our general configuration file and we say engine factory. We want you to look at the type of engine we're using, yeah. Look at the type of engine we're using and give us like look at the configuration and give us the engine we want, you know. And with that, we're gonna get the engine, you know, something that's cool. So that's why I mean stretch. That's why we have this engine client thing. Yeah. So let me go now and make the DB manager. But then see what I want to do. We are implementing engine. We are implementing engine, yeah. Engine what? Where is that specification? It's in engine specification, and it is called database engine spec. And watch what happens. There you go. Boom. Come on. There you go. You see? Boom. Skitty papa. And the boom, 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 boom. That's all. And the reason we are having this problem is because of one thing. I just need to say this and then I click that. And we can have it coming up here. We are using abstract condition format. We are using our engine interface, database engine interface, and engine interface. Like that. I like that. Good. So with this, what do? We just need to call the underlying engine. But then we have to pass all of these parameters to it, banner. Yeah. This return, return this engine. And this will be the behavior you see for most of these engine clients. This engine that we have, query, I'll pass the container. We're going to pass the columns. We're going to pass the condition. How are we going to pass? We're going to pass the option. Wait. The condition values. And lastly, are there any options? We pass that. This is going to be the behavior for these guys, by the way. All of these clients you're going to see throughout the application. If we see an SMS engine, just know it's the same thing. Come on, let's go. And we are just going to do insert. It's going to be container colon and values. We return that. We do the same thing here for this guy. Delete. We are returning our this. Wait, what did I just do? I said this insert. It's supposed to be this engine. These are how the errors come around. You get recursive, yeah. This engine, delete, container, columns. By the way, have you heard of macroverse? You are part of it. Are you part of it?
I don't know my macros.
That is a company.
Oh, I know the company too.
Yeah. Then you should look at it. These guys are good.
Okay, they are good, but now you are supposed to pay for the program.
But they said
That's just like there is no difference between. Okay, according to me,
eh,
there is no difference between micromas and university loan. To be honest,
but the thing is,
because actually,
pro-
I think you can benefit by just there are some very good courses on these platforms like Udemy. You can just learn as long as you put in the effort. You don't have to pay because that thing I think the overall fee that you're supposed to pay is like it's almost the same as the university. They start more. It's like $15,000. Imagine. That's a lot.
okay. Now I will. I'm going to thank God that this thing, people can't hear you when you are speaking. You are safe, man. Don't worry about it. And you have new headphones. But yeah, true, true. Uh, we can just continue. Um, so we updated this. We have finished the database engine client by now, and we have factory in here. The factory is our database engine factory. There will be other factories coming up, but then we need to have we need to also have our data structure factory. Yeah. Um, the data structure factory, and I know you are like, where is this guy taking all of this thing from? Yeah, here's the thing. You see this condition format that we pass here. Yeah. You don't want to create a new SQL format. You see, you want to just create the condition format based on the engine you are using for your overall application. So with that, except you want to couple things and say this one should return an SQL engine, an SQL format, yeah. So let's give that task to the condition format factory, the CF factory, that will return for us the type of condition format based on some rules that will be determined by the runtime environment. And with that in mind, we can go ahead to say PHP ZAS make factory, make class. It's going to be in the data structure. DATA, data structure, and it's going to be factory. How many data structure factories will there be? There'll be a lot of factories, eh? I'm sure. Because, okay, for this application, it's simple. You know, when I'm thinking, I think about big applications. If you start extending things, you get, you tend to get more and more. Okay, let me see. A data structure factory, you want it to return a type of data structure based on runtime. Really, does that make sense? Me, I don't think that makes sense at all. Because if you are using a stack, oh yeah, you could have custom implementation of a stack for a particular use case. So you could have the root stack, and then you have custom implementation of the root stack, like the way we have the root SQL format. So probably you want to get certain type of stack during runtime. Okay, maybe this doesn't make sense for now. Let me just tell you what happened. In ZAS, I have this thing called the namespace binary tree. The namespace binary tree is a binary tree, but then the node that it uses has some properties for maintaining the name and the namespace. So, and now you are thinking, what is that thing used for? That thing is used for conflict resolution. if I just maybe had, if I, let's say I had human slash test and I have server slash test, and I'm to use them in the same class, something like that, it will automatically give it an alias of h test and s test. So it will say use human slash test as h test and human slash test as not human server slash test as s test. And how are we able to find those collisions of the test? We put things down the binary tree until it meets a new node. When it meets a namespace node, that means it's in the same namespace, but then it has the same name also. So then we tend to put that new namespace in the namespace array for that particular name. And yeah, so if you can have a single name that points to an array of namespaces, so for each of those namespaces, then we create a prefix for the alias. That's how I did it. So you see, that's a binary tree, but then it's a custom implementation of a binary tree. So you could do the same. You want to have different like, yeah, have an abstract, stack, and then you want to have a certain type of stack or certain type of queue maybe, and that you can use the binary. You can use a factory for, provided that you don't know it at runtime. So since we don't know condition format at runtime, it's better we create condition format factory that will return for us an abstract condition format. So with that, we're going to say create CF factory, which is condition format factory. Yeah. PHP ZAS make class data structure factory, and we're going to say CF format factory. And that will be in data structure factory, CF format factory. And we're going to say returns a condition format. And now you're thinking, why we know that we only have SQL. For now, we only have SQL format. But as time goes by, you will want to have specific implementation, like for NoSQL format, or maybe you even want to have one for MySQL format. So maybe my SQL has some things that are not defined in SQL itself. So then you go ahead to extend SQL and work on those different formatters for the different conditions in MySQL. And it's the same thing, yeah. Same thing you want to do for maybe Postgres, or let's say NoSQL condition formatter. So things like that. With that, I don't want people creating object of this factory. So I'm going to say private constructor, and when I say people creating objects, I'm the one here, man. I'm the one using this thing. But maybe in the future, when this thing is released, it might get really extended, and you have a lot of contributors. And you don't want people creating factory mistakenly as an object. So we're going to say get CF. So we say public function get CF, get condition formatter. Okay. Now, if we want to get condition formatter, do we have to pass something in here? Like, do we pass something? Yeah, probably we need to pass something. Now, this thing that we pass, it can be something that is determined by some global configuration, so that we can get the type of condition formatter we want. Or we could have a service provider that will return for us, like it will be the one that has the condition formatter in it. So we can, let's say, yeah, a service, yeah, service. then we can get the formatter from there and get the output. So then that service now will be the one that looks at the actual, that it's going to be the one looking at what type of condition formatter is being used, etc. But let's just use this factory pattern. So we're going to get CF, and this is going to return for us an abstract condition formatter. So we want to say get CF should look at some configuration. So get CF, maybe we can say string type. Yeah. Now you'll be thinking, but if we say string type, you are making us aware of the type of condition formatter we are using. See, you probably would just want to set the type of the condition formatter. Maybe, like you just want to get it from the configuration file. Maybe you can have constants, or maybe you just have configs, and you just say config, maybe type. It can be MySQL, NoSQL, post, anything. And then we can use that. So that means if you want to change the type of CF you get throughout the code, you only have to change it in the configuration file instead of coming to every CF method and changing it. And that means we get that type of formatter. During runtime. Yeah. So I'm going to say switch. We're going to be switching type. So what do we want? We can say case, yeah, SQL, and for this SQL. Now the reason I don't want it to be SQL is because I want it to be something that is a constant, and many things depend on it. Yeah. So probably we know we have something SQL. I think it is the abstract SQL engine. We don't want that one. We want something that will be in the global configuration, and then we can put that constant here. But we are not going to make a configuration, or should we make a config file? Should we? Now I'm thinking if we should. I don't know if we should. Right now, you could put that in the .env file, but the .env file would be in the config folder. You see, that's the thing about ZAS. There's no root folder where you're gonna put .env in. No way. You put .env in the folder itself. We actually have our own. I think there was this time I wrote my own env parser, and I've been using that to parse the values in the env file. But there's also .env that is rating, so we can just use that library to parse the values in the .env file. Yeah, and then we can use that as the constant thing we're talking about. So what I'll say, I'm not going to create a constant called condition formatter constant. Let me see, where can I put that constant so that it is used? Maybe I can say I'm going to create a constant class called global constants. PHP ZAS make class const, and it's just going to be global, like that. So we have made the global constants. in global constants has a private constructor. I'm gonna put the constants here. So just gonna call this one database constants, and I'm going to say const SQL is equal to that. Come on. My SQL is equal to my SQL. Now, this MySQL is a keyword, so I don't want to use it here. Let me use something that is not a keyword. So we can say SQL. If it is, I'm gonna call txt SQL, txt MySQL. It's just a text constant. Okay, like that. And then now in our CF factory, we can say if this thing is txt SQL, which is from the global constants, GLO global constants. So if it's from the global constants, then good. So we are using global constants. Yeah. If it is that, you just want to return a new SQL CF. Wow, okay. Other than that, we're just gonna return. So what do you want to return by default? By default, what do we return by default? Case. No, it's not case, just default. Default, what do you want to return? I just want to return a new SQL CF. It's like I'm in love with this new SQL CF. This is me trying to run away from passing the constants. You see, like when we have all of these abstractions around the place, it kind of makes it hard to understand the code. But once you get a flow of how the code goes, you already know where errors are and where you are going to put something, instead of writing some spaghetti code. I made the same error again. The same error that I was telling myself not to make. I've made it again. Put something here and forgot to remove it. What? No. Okay, we're gonna learn to. If someone followed my my voice, I think they can tell what I was doing. Okay. So let me go ahead. So yeah, we have the factory for CF, which is constructor factory. Let me see, when did I ask for exceptions? That was in the query. And I have implemented all of the SQL engine methods and even my trick that I learned. You didn't even see that because I forgot. I've implemented all of these methods. I forgot to remove the browser again. You know what? I'm going to put a big I'm going to put something some sticky note that says remove the browser so that I can always remove the browser when I'm streaming. Okay, So guys, have we finished? I know you are asking yourself that question. Have we finished with this whole database thing? Oh, absolutely. We're done. Now it's time to get to the actual code. The actual code for Steady Smart itself. So let me do git add or git commit dash m finished the database abstraction, and then we can do git push origin min. Now I'm feeling sad again for leaving the browser open. You know what? I probably won't open the browser again. I'll just uh, I'll just tell you what I'm doing in the browser because I will surely forget that I left it there. Okay. So given that we have everything here set, I'm going to close this, close save. And now that we have finished the abstractions, I'm going to be telling you what goes into the other things. You know, we're going to have our own router in here. It's going to be something interesting, you know, something really interesting. So probably I'll learn how to deal with the .env and background processes. We will even go ahead to work on this, the background setup, yeah, because you don't want some, come on, it's my quick fix like that. So you don't want us to send a request from the browser, yeah. So we're gonna check all of that in here, and then we're gonna do some authentication if needed based on the, like, yeah, we'll do some authentication and blah blah blah. It's gonna be exciting, yeah. So with this, let me call it a stream, you know, and maybe turn on. We can add a little camera, and trust me, I am feeling sleepy. Yep. Let me just put this one here. And okay, so here we go. Yep. I know I've talked a lot, by the way. I do talk a lot. So, um, wow. Okay, so that is it. This has been it. The next time I'm going to be taking you through uh, the actual task. You know, when we are creating the task class, we are creating the unit class, we are creating the user class, when we are routing, you know, all of these things. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to implement the front end differently because the front end was implemented by some group of, we were three. So I'm going to go to the front end, just take the code that is there, put it in another folder, and then I'm going to work on the JavaScript so that we hit the correct route. Um, and from there, I am going to test it, you know, and see whether this ZAS thing works. In addition to that, I will also want to look at speed. So probably I will learn to use PHP unit, the unit tester for PHP, and then we can see how fast our things execute or our code. I think at this point you have noticed that I'm talking about performance all of the time, and most of the thing, if you look at the code that I write, is performance oriented. You know, it's like this. Um, I'm trying my best to reduce the loops that I have and trying to use the code or the stuff in PHP that is already there. Okay, so with that said, we are actually good, and bye bye. Have a good morning. I will go live again. So yeah, please subscribe, and I'm sure some of you don't know what's going on here, so you can read the description. And sometimes you just come sit here. If you know how to program, let me just be telling you what I'm doing. Maybe that will give you some idea on how to go about your own things. I'm here building something, but I'm also making another thing. So as I work, I get new idea and try to implement it. Like the one for the condition. I think I promised you that I'm going to have a condition formatter the last time. And I thought on it and created a condition formatter as you saw me test it. So that is it. See you.